So I decided to give Chutes and Ladders an apocalyptic makeover and call it Doom and Salvation. And here's the very official spinner. I experimented with making the spinner 666, but it really just didn't work. You really have to have some odd numbers. I decided to focus on Revelation, very narrow focus because we all know I like that. And I focus on chapters 2 and 3, which is when John is talking to the 7 churches of Asia. And he's telling them, or Jesus is telling them through John, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So I made each ladder correspond to a verse where he says what they're doing right, and then the reward. And each chute is what they're doing wrong and the consequence for not repenting or not fixing the error of their ways.
There we go. Oh,
nice.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm blank.
You're blank.
Unexcited at the moment.
I don't know. 4. Remember from whence thou art fallen and repent.
Oh man.
And what's your reward?
Eat the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God.
Oh.
1. Readeth and hear the words of this prophecy. Blessed is he.
Oh wow.
So this is the beginning. I wake up and drag myself out of bed, as I have for the past 6 months. It's mid-December in my frozen apartment in Hamilton Heights. It's pitch black, as it always is at 2 in the morning, or at night, or whatever. I shuffle across the tiny part of my bedroom floor that isn't covered in dirty clothes and trash, to make my way to the kitchen. I then place a kettle filled with water onto the stove with all the energy I could gather. I saw the blue fire of the burning gas, and wished I could muster up the courage to throw myself into it. I want the flame to grow and engulf the house and me and everything I knew. And then there were no more thoughts. Those were all the thoughts I've ever had. This is how it's been for 6 months, or for as long as I can remember. I imagined mankind and its carbon-based kin crying, screaming and fighting the elements of nature to its last breath. I dreamt of fire and brimstone, hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, and the Messiah himself with the sword of death. The end I yearned for is covered in fabulous destructive colors dancing together to bring chaos to the world, like the stars in Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. I close my eyes and pray to that non-existent God. With another stroke of courage, I take off my coat and jump. I'm not going to read it anymore because it's pretty long. Basically, I have her go through like a psychiatric interview, and she ends up out on the street again, and the cycle repeats.
Going back to my project, so as you all know, I'm Christian, I've been going to church, and while taking this course, I was really interested in, actually having a discussion with people who were considered to a certain extent religious leaders in my community about how they felt about the apocalypse, how they felt about the book of Revelation, and how do they feel about, the whole end times, because it's not necessarily something that people have conversations about, much like, sex and other things. So, obviously some progress needs to be made, but I was really excited about having the opportunity to talk to 2 people in particular, Dr. Christie, who is the president for Manhattan Bible Institute, and Dr. Steve Jagdeo, who is currently a pastor of Global Christian Network. And as I went to this project, I was really hoping to sort of find out what their apocalyptic narratives were, and whether or not their narratives were influenced by, sociological issues, their status as immigrants in New York City, their, places in society as, men of color, etc. I probably would have been able to get a little bit more deeper into that if I had, continued the interview perhaps on a different day. But after I told them I wanted to interview them, they're like, okay, I have to do my research and, read up. So that's kind of along the vein of the responses that I got. But I thought it was interesting just to talk to them and to see how they felt about certain things.
Okay. This is George, everyone. George lives in the classroom of nursery 4. He wasn't very happy. The teacher threw him in the garbage can one day. One day, my mother, came, she picked me up from school, and she saw George in the garbage can. What a nice little monkey, she thought. I would like to take him home with me. So she put her purse on the ground, and she picked up George and took him out of the trash, took him home. We washed him up, we gave him some new clothes and some Woody Allen glasses, and he's been with us ever since. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here. George is very curious. One day we got to talking. A long time ago, before George came to live with us, he was a young monkey living the high life in a basement apartment in Brooklyn. You know how I am about taking the Lord's name in vain.
What did he ever do for you anyway?
Oh, you know, we have a deal. The company's expanding. With our contacts in China, Japan, and some monarchies in Africa you never heard of. We're slated for global takeover by 2012. Big Pharma promises eternal payoffs for people who buy stock now. You didn't hear this tip from me. They don't like insider trading on this side of the aisle either.
Alright, so basically my project was about looking for apocalyptic references within wartime, and I thought, well, Professor Quinby thought, I was just going to go through news articles, looking at political cartoons would be a good way of trying to find this, and I found there was a huge range. I found that a bunch of all the cartoons, either they had references, they hinted at references, whether it was really in your face, and then you find the really rare ones where there are so many references that you can barely fit them on the page. Okay? and I saw and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow and a crown that was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And basically that's read as disease.
We all watched the Duck and Cover PSA, and I was really interested in it, and really interested in how it was interpreted by the people who watched it. Not only people who were adults, but people who were mainly kids, and from there it evolved into exploring the civil defense program through the eyes of people who were in public school at the time. Did they think that, hiding in a desk would save them? What did they think about the government giving out this huge misinformation campaign, or do they not know it? But taking into account Hiroshima and people understanding what was happening, I thought it really interesting to interview a few people. So I interviewed 2 people who were in public school during the 1950s and 1 person who was in high school during September 11th, and I tried to see whether there were any connections. So I looked at basically preparing for the atomic apocalypse. How is it perceived? What do you do to save yourself? Can you save yourself? And that's what I looked at. And so we're going to start with a beautiful PSA that's stuck in my head, but I still like it, so hopefully that's a good sign.
And what I was really trying to do was isolate all the images and decontextualize the image from the actual book. And the 3 ways that this was done was one, by isolating the image from the text. It's kind of just drawing out the image. Also kind of messing with the chronological order that they originally appear in the text. And the 3rd way is by using just a variety of different images to portray what occurred in Revelation. And as for the ending sequence, you really have to believe me when I say I did not intend it to be humorous, and I did not intend it to be camp or kitsch, but it somehow can't help itself. And so I was really wondering what would have made it more serious. Would better costumes and more realistic fake blood? Is it really just production value? And I thought about Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ and as a portrayal of Jesus, and is that film any more solemn simply because they're speaking in Aramaic, or they have such a high production level value, or because the violence is that much more gruesome and close up? But then I think about other portrayals of Jesus with that less high production values, but are that are produced by faith-based organizations with a religious intention, and I feel they're more kitsch than mine, and in some circumstances they come off incredibly camp. And so that whole question of portrayal, but people reacted to the images a little more personally than they would have if they had been reading them in the book in the greater context of religious scripture. Thank you.